Okay, guys, we're going to look at cut time counting. I have some rhythms here in common time. Remember, common time is 4/4, but any time signature with a 4 in the bottom, we use our common values. You should be pretty familiar with these now before you move into cut time. When the bottom number changes to 2, this means 2/2, cut time, common time, cut time, but that top number could be a 3 or a 4 or something else. It's the bottom number that changes your values. Okay, remember the common value in the bottom is 4 because a whole note is worth 4. Anytime you change the bottom number of a time signature, you do that mathematically to all your values. Okay, so if you're working in a time signature that has a 2 in the bottom, we're going to look at what the rhythms look like. I think of converting them back to my common rhythms, but you're cutting everything in half. Okay, so watch this. If I had this in a cut time meter, that is a whole note. Cut in half becomes a half note. Therefore, that's 1 through 2. If I had a half note, let me change colors here. If I had a half note in a cut time or a time signature with a 2 in the bottom, a half note is actually like a quarter note in common time. All right, so it would be counted as a 1. If I had 2 quarter notes, again, you're just going down that rhythm tree when that 2's in the bottom, that would be like 2 eighth notes in common time. All right? If I had 4 eighth notes, I would count them as 16th notes in common time. That would be 1 E and a. All right. To get this dotted rhythm that's often missed, this would have to be a dotted half note followed by a quarter note, because a dotted half note would turn into a dotted quarter, quarter would turn into an eighth. So in a cut meter, that's how you would get that rhythm. All right, that other dotted rhythm that we often miss, a dotted eighth 16th in common time, would be a dotted quarter eighth in a cut time. So that would be 1 If I had in cut time a quarter followed by 2 eighths, that would turn into, when I cut it in half, it would turn into that rhythm, 1 and a. That same rhythm reversed, I call them very close cousins. If I had 2 eighth notes followed by a quarter note, that is the 1 E and rhythm. And then this flipped around would be like an eighth note followed by a dotted quarter. That would be the 1 E rhythm. But you don't see a lot, but it is out there. Now, let's look at an example. This is an example of 3/2. That means I should have 3 beats per measure, and that 2 in the bottom is going to cut everything in half. All right. Now, some of you are visual learners, and my visual learners, you're going to, kind of see that you learn a little better by visualizing some things. So here we go. Looking at this 3/2, I will add some little beams to kind of show you what it would look like. Now, in the order of cutting things in half, if you have an open circle, open note like a whole note, to cut it in half, you add a stem. So the first thing you could do is add a stem. If it already has a stem and it's an open circle, you fill it in. If the note head's already filled in and has a stem, add a flag to cut it in half. If it already had a flag, add a second flag. So that's the order of cutting things in half. So visually, that might help you with some of this rhythm and cut time. 3 beats per measure, everything's cut in half. So a half note, if I fill that in, is counted like a quarter note. 2 quarter notes, if I put that beam there, is like 2 eighth notes. 4 eighth notes, if I add that second beam, okay, just visually, I'm doing them as dotted lines just so you can visualize it, is like 16th notes, and I would count that 3 and a. Dotted quarter eighth in cut time is like a dotted eighth 16th in common time. 1 Quarter followed by 2/8. Add that beam. There's 2 and a. Here's beat 3. Add that beam. Add that beam. You can see those common rhythms kind of pop out of there. 3 and. Fill in that circle. Add that flag. 1 through 2 and. Sorry. And then add that beam. That one already was there, that little flag. And there's your 3 It's 1 through 2 and. 1 through 2 and 3 Sorry for the mess. And then that doesn't have a stem, so you think of adding that stem. That would be 1 through 2, beam, beam, 3 and All right, practice makes perfect on these. Just converting them down by cutting everything in half.